Oh, Jack. You were an assassin, yes, but we are not the same. And that is why your memory must be erased for all time.
Christopher Columbus, Assassin's Creed 2, Discovery.
Oh, I've been waiting for this moment, Luis. Do you feel it? The tide shifting beneath us.
While a lot of people likely missed Assassin's Creed 2 Discovery on the DS, if you did play it, you may have been baffled at the way Christopher Columbus is handled. No longer is he the man who wrought so much suffering in the Americas, but he's a friendly ally of the assassins. He ends up being a target of the Borgias, so Ezio rescues him. But, as with many other figures, being against the Borgias doesn't make someone a moral person. Ezio actually ends up helping Columbus put his expedition together, even though the brutality Columbus would perpetrate later in his life is surely against everything the assassins stand for. The same assassins who would go on to try and end the slave trade.
Do not interfere, Ezio. I've had quite enough counseling from your quarter.
Charles Lee, Assassin's Creed 3.
Benjamin Churchwill. He's a finder and a fixer. He's also on your list.
Lee and Washington did disagree extensively about Washington's military choices, though Lee didn't initially have strong objections to Washington becoming commander-in-chief instead. After a chaotic retreat during the Battle of Monmouth, Lee's vendetta against Washington grew. But he did not, as far as anybody knows, join a secret society devoted to destroying Washington and other enemies within the Continental Army. His public disdain of Washington eventually got him dismissed from the army entirely, after which point he stopped his machinations and bred dogs until his death. There was no last-minute chase through a burning ship in Boston, nor was he executed in a pub in Philadelphia.
Yet you fight. You resist. Why?
Because no one else will.
Mary Read, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag.
Fancy seeing you here, Kenway. Still looking sleek and mean.
It's well known that notorious pirates Anne Bonny and Mary Read did dress as men, with both of them doing so while serving on the ship of Jack Rackham, aka Calico Jack, who also appears in Black Flag. However, not only does Anne Bonny not dress as a man in the game, but Mary Read is disguised as James Kidd, the alleged son of Captain William Kidd. This part of history is not true. Read never pretended to be Kidd's son that we know of. Interestingly, some historical sources suggest that the two weren't trying to disguise themselves as men, but were simply wearing more comfortable men's clothes, though other sources dispute this. We'll likely never know.
No one honest has an easy life, Edward. And it's aching for one that causes the most pain.
Nicolo Machaveli, Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Ezio, what a surprise to see you here.
I thought you had sent for me.
Would Machiavelli have been an assassin if the assassins were real? Probably not, and for one reason and one reason alone. He was a huge admirer of Cesare Borgia. It's widely believed that his most famous work, The Prince, which explores treachery in political life, is about Cesare. Brotherhood does suggest that Machiavelli can't be trusted, with La Volpe falling for evidence that suggests he's a traitor. Ezio finds out that Machiavelli is innocent and saves his life. Machiavelli also continued to live and work in Florence after the Medicis were finally exiled, which is also in opposition to the games since the Medicis are key allies of the assassins and the auditores in particular.
We must not allow him to assemble his remaining supporters. The coming weeks are critical.
The Marquis de Sade, Assassin's Creed Unity.
Now you can charge in there, cause a great disturbance, and send all the rats scurrying back to their holes.
The less you know about the crimes the Marquis de Sade were imprisoned for, the better. But among them were the performance of obscene acts using a crucifix and dozens of assaults, ending up arrested or imprisoned half a dozen times. Arno meets Sade early in the game, though he doesn't know it's him, during the storming of the Bastille, but in real life, though Sade was imprisoned there, he'd already been transferred away 10 days previously. It's also hard to believe that despite Sade's political connections, Arno would ever work with him. Sad asks Arno to assassinate a brothel owner who's been mistreating his girls too, which hardly tracks with the crimes he was found guilty of or his philosophies.
To your health, Arno.
Karl Marx, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
We're at a disadvantage, sir.
Karl Marx. Much like you, I am an activist of sorts.
You've got the look of a man who wants something.
Ubisoft is infamous for claiming its complex historical epics are divorced from politics. So, what happens when a company with that kind of ethos decides to put Karl Marx in one of its games? Well, it's bizarre to say the least. Marx appears in a few side missions in Syndicate, some of the glitchiest in the whole game, and talks to the Fries extensively about how he believes the true route to socialism is via democracy, disagreeing with the violent tactics of some of his followers. This isn't exactly accurate though. Marx generally believed that only through revolution could true democracy be achieved. True democracy in this case meant the right to vote for all men at least. So they were planning to revolt to gain the vote, which they still didn't get in Britain until 1918.
Killing people and destroying property solves nothing. Democracy is the only road to socialism.
Cesare Borgia, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
The Pope told me about you and your little group of assassins.
All of the Borgias are likely to be very inaccurate since all the negative stories about them come from slanderous accusations made by other Italian nobles who didn't like them. Cesare, though, may be the worst affected. There's no evidence that he and Lucrezia had an incestuous relationship, for instance, and he was also a highly effective military leader. By the end of his life, though, he always wore a leather mask in public, almost certainly to hide the symptoms of syphilis. He also didn't die nobly in battle. He was ambushed alone by enemy soldiers and stabbed to death by spears before being stripped. Ezio would never dishonor an opponent by doing that, though.
How did you find me?
The apple you stole from Mario Auditore, let me hear.
Julius Caesar, Assassin's Creed Origins.
Out, all. You will each be sent for when our Congress is concluded. I wish to hear both Ptolemy's side of the story.
By the end of Origins, Caesar has arrived and become a puppet of the Order of the Ancients, essentially doing everything Septimus and Flavius tell him. His death on the Ides of March, orchestrated by assassins including Brutus, is betrayed as a victory for the people. But how accurate is this to Caesar in real life? Well, not very, as in reality, Caesar remained extremely popular in Rome. His military campaigns were brutal and devastating, even by contemporary standards. But in Rome, he enacted populist policies and oversaw many reforms to the Roman Republic that would have helped ordinary people. Because of this, some have argued that it makes more sense in reality for Caesar to be aligned with the assassins, not Brutus.
She will never fall to you or your kind.
Freedom is not given, Caesar.
Napoleon Bonaparte, Assassin's Creed Unity.
Oh, I'm not here at all. Not officially, anyway. But how often does one find the opportunity to poke about in a king's private study?
One of the early contradictions between Napoleon in real life versus in Unity is, as with many of the characters, his accent. Like the rest of the Frenchmen, he speaks with an English accent. In reality, Napoleon was from Corsica, and routinely mocked by the French for his rough way of speaking, until he eventually won them over with his charm. So it would have made more sense to give him a different accent from all other characters. The Dead King's DLC gets stranger though, by having him be a villain with an Apple of Eden. We already knew that he had one thanks to Assassin's Creed 2, but he turns into a monster too soon than reasonably makes sense, since Dead Kings is set in the 1790s.
I wanted him assigned to some out-of-the-way garrison, but the man redefines the term friends in high places. He's untouchable.
Jack the Ripper, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Help me. Miss, please, why am I here? No one will tell me.
It's Jack! Jack the Ripper, I say! He's the one who abducted us!
You could argue that since Jack the Ripper was never caught, it's hard to dispute much of what Syndicate says. But the Jack the Ripper DLC is so beyond the realm of possibility that it's hard to believe that any of it could be accurate. In-game, Jack the Ripper is a former assassin, whose motivation for killing women is that those women were actually assassins themselves. That makes sense as a premise, but what about Jack the Ripper's personal prison he's running in two decaying prison hulks? That's just baffling. As well as that, by 1888, there were no more prison hulks in Britain, left to rot or otherwise, and all the ones in Deptford specifically had sunk or been broken up as early as the 1840s.
Rest in peace now, Jack. You and your twisted acolytes.
Let us know in the comments which historical figures you think needed some more research.